You're listening to the N2K Space Network.
It's the Labor Day holiday in the United States today, so we are on a publishing break here at T-. And given that it's early September and lots of kids are starting school right around now, we have education on the brain. So for our episode today, we have an encore presentation of T- Overview, our radio program, with this episode all about international space education. Enjoy!
IAM experts streamline your identity management with Strata. Integrate any identity service with non-standard apps, apply MFA without changing app code, and ensure always-on identity availability. Strata reduces stress, enhances operational control, and improves security. Avoid the headaches of app refactoring and legacy tech debt. Join industry leaders who trust Strata for their identity solutions. Visit strata.io/cyberwire, tell us your identity challenge, and get free AirPods Pro. Secure your enterprise's identity management today. Visit strata.io/cyberwire. And our thanks to Strata for being a longtime friend and supporter of this podcast.
I'm Maria Varmazis, host of the T- Space Daily podcast, and you're listening to T- Overview.
T-minus 20 seconds to LOS.
In this program, we'll feature some of the conversations from our daily podcast with the people who are forging the path in the new space era, from industry leaders, technology experts and pioneers, to educators, policymakers, research organizations, and more. If space is truly a global endeavor, then we need to take all of humanity with us. How do you train people in countries across the globe to participate in space when they may not have the access to education that they need? Well, on today's program, we speak to advocates for space education that reaches well beyond the United States. Our first guest is Sarah Kelly, Program Director of the Endeavor Scholarship. She spoke to me about how they're working with high school students across the world to ensure that they have access to STEM education.
The Astronaut Al Worden Endeavor Scholarship was started in 2019 in culmination with the 50th anniversary of Apollo. And at that date and time at the Paris Air Show, Al Worden, Apollo 15 astronaut, Charlie Duke, Apollo 16 astronaut, and Walt Cunningham is the Apollo 7 astronaut, came and joined us, and we had the inaugural Endeavor Scholarship moment in time, a big party celebrated with industry and private business sector to launch this program that focuses on the future of STEM. And our role in that is to try to inspire high school age kids to pursue STEM careers, to help fuel the workforce, to inspire them, to excite them. But what makes us pretty unique and special is that we make sure that we target kids from all over the world. So we know that the future of STEM, of space, of curing cancer, of any type of, saving the planet, we can't do it in isolation. We can't have this isolated view that, okay, in the silo of the US, we will fix the world's problems. And, it's not the space race anymore. Our space race is a global race, I guess you could look at it as. And so we believe that the botanist will come from Australia and the comms woman might come from the UAE and our astronaut might stem from Poland. And so we believe that collaboration and global connectivity is at the root of our scholarship. We target that age so that they don't lose interest in STEM, making sure that women stay interested in STEM and don't lose their path towards the sciences. And we feel that that age group is critical, but also a little bit neglected. You find a lot of scholarships for college age. You find a lot of scholarships for post-grad, and there's really good money out there for them, and that money needs to be there. But we find that this age group could use a little more love, and that's how we ended up here.
There's so much I love about the Endeavor Scholarship, and I think the fact that it's not just space-focused, but STEM-focused is really significant. And I think that speaks a lot also to the vision of the scholarship that even if you are a space-focused person, as I often am, I mean, it is an ecosystem of the sciences, but it's also just speaks to the importance of just developing the next generation of minds and wherever their interests take them. I just think that's just really incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Space Camp is a beautiful program, right? So we take the kids for a week-long advanced academy program. It's astronaut-like training. They're bouncing around in suits. They're scuba diving with gloves on and trying to manipulate tools under the water and going on, missions to Mars. And they'll pull a card and the astronaut has an asthma attack and the team has to respond. And it's really tries to be as, true to the program as possible. But that experience is amazing and wonderful. It's just one part, though. We bring the kids ahead of camp. They come to Washington, D.C., and we bond there as a team. We'll go to the Air and Space Museum. Different industry and government invite us to have, a picnic lunch. And this year, the United Arab Emirates Embassy has invited the kids to come have a picnic lunch. And just like those different, and Boeing is a huge supporter. And we're going to meet up with Heidi Grant, the head of Global Growth and Engagement, is going to talk to the kids. And we want to inspire them, just like you said, in whatever field, and really it's STEAM, right? It's not just STEM. The arts and architecture is there. So, if we show up at the Uvar Hazy Museum and they have the full Discovery model, right? The full shuttle. It's not a model.
Yeah.
The full shuttle is there.
The shuttle, yeah.
The whole thing. And when you're up on that, you're up, I don't know, is it 4 floors probably to look down on it? But when you turn the other way, there's a big glass wall and you're looking down at a live workshop. And on that floor are engineers and artists and anthropologists who are tending to these crafts. And that's a job. And that's a real job in STEM that's needed, and education. And, so I think that our experience culminates in an awesome thing at Space Camp. And I'm sure the kids, will remember zip lining and the friends they made. But our hope is that they take out of it what they need to find a path that will better the world and whatever that looks like for them.
I love that. I have a childhood friend who went to Space Camp and is now an amazing neurosurgeon. Like she does not have a space-related career, but I know it was a very formative experience for her in terms of not just seeing the career paths, but also critical thinking and all those things. It was very formational for her. So on that personal anecdote note, I could absolutely see so easily how an experience, it's also fun as heck. Let's be real. It's so fun. That's why us space nerds get jealous, right?
They run those kids from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. There's classes, there's activities, there's team building, there's practical. It's a wonderful program. And then it's like you said, I hope that they're sparked in curiosity, whatever that looks like. And they learn to get out of their comfort zones and see the payout of that.
I think it's just, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but I do think it is really beautiful that this is an international effort also. I think that your point about, the future of the world, like we can't think so siloed. How on earth do you pick the kids for something like this? I imagine they're all exemplary. Not trying to say like I'm helping kids get in or anything.
No, it's so true. It's very challenging because you look at a pool and they all bring something unique and different. So obviously with each country, we have specific criteria, we have rubrics, we have, all that good standard, teaching stuff. And what we have to do though is I'm sitting here in New Jersey and I don't know how to find the best kids in Australia. So we have to partner with different people in country. So we partner with different government sectors, business sectors. Australia was a great example of a fantastic contest. The American Chamber of Commerce down there, their CEO, April Pomerly, took our call. And she's like, this is exactly what we're looking to do. We want to make bilateral relations. We want to promote space. We want to promote STEM. Let's do this. So they launched a nationwide contest there that had over 1,000 applicants. And then their judging team whittled it down. The top 6 come then to our team. And we interview the 6 and 4 become the team and then 2 become alternates. But every country is a little different. Every contest is run a little bit different depending on the system and their school system. School calendars play into it too. We have to,
they're different. Yeah,
they're all different. We have to be mindful that the Singaporeans have a national exam in July. in June, and we got to be mindful of it's really delicate for each country, each ecosystem. But we've lucked out that we have some really fantastic partners. I think that Coleman Worldwide's relationship has let that happen, so people trust them, and then they hear we're doing this great thing for their youth, and I think that is always a little bit of a surprise, because when we reach out, they're like, "Oh, you want us to bring American kids to space camp and help you?" Like, no. We want to bring French students to camp. We want Emirati kids to come to U.S. space camp and have that U.S. camp experience and go back home and become ambassadors for the program. So it's very cool and eye-opening. And just like you said, right now our closest partners are aerospace, but the UAE is a good example and a good model where Coleman does more than aerospace. It's defense, it's health, it's oil and gas, it's food and beverage. And STEM is all of those. So they're our first one where we're stepping into oil and gas. So ADNOC was a partner this year to help select some kids out of the UAE. And again, it's the understanding of, yes, it culminates in space camp, but that's so much more than just astronaut training.
I would love to know what you're thinking, like the long-term vision is for the scholarship. Not that what y'all have been doing is insufficient or anything, but your vision. Yeah. Yeah.
So with camp closing due to COVID, like for example, the students of Chile took a trip to Antofagasta and the observatory there. And again, we try to fuel this love for STEM. They are now ambassadors for the program. Now we have kids that have gone through the camp. They are ambassadors for the program. And my ultimate hope is that those experiences, whether they were a trip to the desert, a trip to space camp, a trip to DC, is that they spread the love for STEM, that they encourage others to explore and be curious. We would love to continue partnering with other nonprofits and supporting other nonprofits. This year, one of our teams, the U.S. team, is coming with the help of Sisters of the Skies. So they're a nonprofit that aims to help young Black women pursue careers as pilots, which is a very underrepresented community in the pilot world. So we felt that they were a strong representation of what we're trying to do to diversify, to encourage. So my personal hope for Endeavor of the future is that we have ambassadors all over the world who serve as a ripple effect for international collaboration, for support, for strong relationships around the world, and for just a promotion of camaraderie.
So there are programs encouraging students to follow careers in STEM around the globe. But how do we make sure that they get the education that they need in their home countries to pursue their dreams? Arizona State University set up the Milo Space Science Institute to teach teachers around the world. Here's David Thomas with more details.
Milo Space Science Institute was formed because of the recognition of what's happening in space. You have now new missions to the moon. You have countries that have never thought about space in years past. They now have satellites, and they have aspiring programs to go to the moon and participate in Artemis. The question becomes, how do you train these countries? How do you train the people in these countries to participate in space when they may not have the deep bench of faculty that we are very fortunate to have in the United States, and may not have a heritage or a legacy of space programs that they can build on? So the Milo Institute was created to translate the heritage and legacy that we have at Arizona State University and also in the United States to countries around the world to help train the workforce, to inspire the next generation to realize that it is feasible, it is possible for them to participate in the new space economy.
That's fascinating. So we're talking about training the trainers in a way. So how does one do that? That is quite a remarkable task.
It is a daunting task, Maria. It's a well stated. So I am very fortunate to work with an amazing team of people who have been doing this for a number of years in the United States. There was a mission called Lucy, and there's an outreach program called LaSpace, the L apostrophe space. And this LaSpace program was very successful. And it now has allowed over 10,000 students to come through in a semester. It's live, virtual. And so it allows us to reach great extents. We've used this platform now and translated this to countries around the world to train students in this live virtual format where we bring experts who have participated in Mars exploration, they participated in lunar exploration, orbiters, rovers, mapping the craters on the moon, looking for frozen ice water on the moon. And these experts are able to tell their stories in such a way that it's truly inspiring. And the platform, the live virtual platform, allows us to do this relatively easily in countries all over the world.
I'd love to learn more about what does that look like? Any examples you can give me?
For sure. We started this international version of the space. It's called the Milo Mission Academy for international deployment. And the Milo Mission Academy has been operating in Australia now for several months. And it's fantastic. We have over 200 students representing 33 different universities and vocational schools all across Australia. In addition to that, there's another 25 or 30 professionals who are coming from the mining industry and other existing companies that they want to get into the space economy. And they, once a week, will join us by Zoom. And as I mentioned, we have these amazing speakers that talk about their stories. And the students are assembled into teams, and they're creating a mission concept that potentially could go to the South Pole of the Moon as part of the Artemis program. So this project-based training allows people to come together to think about the challenges, to create a plan that is viable. And they're supported and encouraged by these faculty from ASU and other places, NASA and other places, that really allow them to have the content that makes their product, their deliverable, their mission concept viable. And this is just incredibly inspiring.
Project-based learning is such a great, I just love it. The students in this case are thinking about the industries, especially like in Australia, mining is a big one, where they can make that impact and also deliver on that relevance, that eternal question of why space, what does it matter, when we can connect it to those industries that now are currently huge powerhouses, like again, mining in Australia. That is so impactful and meaningful, and also really helps drive the why space question into demonstrating its value.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's a meaningful question. I mean, it's an important question, and we need to be able to respond to that. So there are a couple of things that come to mind in my experience, and one is yes, we have challenges on Earth. It turns out that we can actually train individuals how to use spacecraft that are orbiting the Earth and understand how to use images to solve real world challenges today. So we're training now students on extracting actionable intelligence from imagery. There are algorithms. There are now many satellite databases that are sponsored by NASA, and Google Earth Engine is a wonderful free front-end platform to be able to access this information. And we train students how to get into that information and pull out data that can help them with their day-to-day jobs. We're trying to get information into the hands of the farmer, into the hands of the person who has a fishing company, into the hands of the mining industry and others who can use this. And you're aware of this, I'm quite sure. You listen to some of the authors of our day, like there's a Harvard Business Review article talking about every company needs to have a space strategy. Space is going to affect every industry. And of course, they're talking primarily about low Earth orbit. And that's true. And so students will be the ones that have the knowledge to understand how to use satellite imagery in their market or in their company. And companies will view these students as being very valuable. And so this knowledge makes them important and valuable for job seeking. When we transition into more of the lunar exploration, we like to talk in terms of how many different fields space needs. And so we are able to attract students from all different kinds of backgrounds. I've had conversations, for example, with one young lady in Ecuador, and we were talking about precision surgery, robotic precision neurosurgery, where you have a doctor in one location, the patient's in a second location, and because of the technology that we have today, that person can be saved through telerobotic surgery. And this is what's going to be needed, for example, on the moon. We have moon bases that are planned. Multiple countries are planning moon bases. But even beyond that, the law and policy needs, the psychological needs. It's a very interesting environment. And so the individual needs to understand, what does wellness mean on the surface of the moon? We're now getting into places like commercial space stations. And I love to tell the story that the spacesuit maker Axiom signed an agreement with Prada to help them with fashion, right?
Yes, I remember that when that story went out, that I said, yes, space is there. Yes.
We've arrived.
Yes.
And so we now are able to attract just about anyone who has a creative imagination. Another quick story, Voyager Space is an organization building a commercial space station, signed an agreement with Hilton Hotels. When I read this, I thought, if I'm an architect and I'm thinking about how I'm going to create design in space, I'm now no longer limited to a floor and walls and the ceiling. Because of the microgravity, I can design every surface and make it attractive, make it livable. I can orient differently and create different scenes. And just the field of creativity, the opportunities that we have across all of these disciplines is pretty extraordinary right now.
It truly is. And what I love about the stories that you were just telling there is it also demonstrates that when I think many of us who have a sort of slightly outdated view of what space workforce might mean, we might think it only means sort of one path, but truly now it is branching out in all sorts of ways. I wonder for people who, again, given the international focus of what your institute does, for people who are in countries that don't have as robust a sort of space heritage as the United States, for example, and they want to be that space person, I'm sort of shorthanding it, what is your recommended path for them? How do they get involved?
It's a great question, and many universities are growing their space programs. But you've touched on something. If you're not in the United States, the United States spends more on space than all other countries combined, and it's just we're truly fortunate here to have so many different resources. The reason that we created our program and made it scalable and accessible around the world is to serve those countries that do not have ready access to universities with space programs. And what we are able to do is accept anyone, regardless of their background. They do not have to have science or engineering as a foundation. We can accept anyone and help them understand what they might possibly do in their career to support a company or to support a job in the space realm. And this is now being deployed in the Middle East. We are looking at Latin America. We have a program that's actually recognized by the White House and that will be deploying in Puerto Rico in the fall. And these are accessible internationally, where we have individuals who are skilled in the trade of going into space and participating in space missions. But our goal is really to create the ecosystem in the country of the participant. And so we are pioneering in some countries, others we're collaborating. And in all cases, our objective is really to amplify, to grow that space ecosystem so that more and more people have opportunities locally to participate.
It's a beautiful vision, honestly. I hope I don't sound too cliche saying that, but it's really beautiful and it's wonderful. So David, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you for the kind words. We are engaged in different regions around the world, but what comes next? It's not sufficient just to have an individual complete a training program for a semester. So what we're doing now is we're putting together some pretty creative, pretty innovative mission models where these individuals can actually participate in a space mission. And so you're familiar with rideshare now, where you're buying a seat in a car as opposed to buying a car, for example, in an Uber ride. We're doing the same thing for the moon. We're leveraging the infrastructure that's being created by NASA and other agencies, and we're bundling that infrastructure as a service So you can now purchase a ride for your instrument or your tech demo or the thing that you want to do for your country. And we take care of the launch, the landing, mobility, power, communications, all that is bundled essentially as a service. And so this is, as far as we're aware, the lowest cost way to get to the moon and actually participate with something on the surface of the moon, participate in the space exploration. And what it will do is it will change the way the people in that country view their status. Because once you are able to participate in something like a lunar mission, it changes everything. It'll draw more into the field. It'll be inspiring. And so there are others. We have an asteroid mission coming up in the 28, 29 timeframe. It's very exciting. I'll lead off by saying this asteroid is going to come close, but it's not going to hit Earth. So the Apophis.
Understood.
The name of the name of this very interesting object is Apophis. And in 2029, it's going to come in between the Earth and the Moon. In fact, it's going to come inside the sort of outer geostationary satellite orbit of our outermost satellites. And so that's pretty close, but it's not going to hit Earth.
Yeah. No, but I was going to say, but in terms of distance, that's practically right next door. I mean, that's cool though. That's really neat.
And it's large. It's about 4 American football fields, and this is a sizable object. But what a wonderful opportunity to study something that is part of our solar system and to try and understand more details about how our solar system formed. And simultaneously, we now have small satellites that have incredible capability. And so we can actually use small satellites to study objects like Apophis. And we are planning to send a mission that is university-led using small satellites about a year ahead of Apophis' close flyby of Earth and study it and just take some images of the morphology and hopefully we can calculate the density of this object, because it is essentially sort of a practice run. If there was an object that was going to has a trajectory that may hit Earth, we need to figure out how to deflect it. And NASA's done this. They've deflected asteroids.
With DART,
so we know we can,
right.
The DART mission, that's
Yep.
right. So we know we can do this, but we need to understand the density to understand the correct strategy. So we're looking to do this precursor mission roughly a year ahead and send the information back to NASA and ESA and other agencies that have planetary defense offices. But what I love about this is we're assembling an international consortium. Once again, coming together to do something that is bigger than perhaps any one of us can do alone, but together we can pull this off.
Thank you to both our guests today, Sarah Kelly and David Thomas. If you're interested in hearing more about the space industry, make sure to join me every day for T-Minus Space Daily. It's available on all major podcast platforms, and you can find out more at space.n2k.com. We'd love to know what you think of the show. You can email us at space@n2k.com. Your feedback ensures that we deliver the information that keeps you a step ahead in the rapidly changing space industry. This episode was produced by Alice Carruth. Our associate producer is Liz Stokes. We are mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karpf. Simone Petrella is our president. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. And I'm your host, Maria Varmazis. Thanks for listening. See you next time.